Let's bring in Cory Mills. He's an Army combat veteran, former Department of Defense advisor under President Trump, now running for Congress in Florida. Cory, great to see you as always. I watched this from afar last week. Obviously, I wasn't on the show. And the one thing that I cannot wrap my head around, why aren't more people talking about the illegality of these protesters trying to sway and intimidate the Supreme Court? I just don't understand that, Cory. Do you?
No, I don't. And I'll tell you, it's absolutely abhorrent behavior. I mean, the fact that we're trying to utilize intimidation and terror tactics to try and influence under mob rule, to try and, influence the decision, which really, if you think about it, a lot of people think that the overturning of Roe actually would stop or abolish abortions. And in fact, that isn't the case. What it actually does is it returns the power back to the people. It allows the people and their elected legislative bodies per state to basically go in and say, this is what we feel on a state-by-state basis. So, for example, red states like Florida and Texas would enact things like the heartbeat bill or the 15-week abortion act. The bluer states like North Carolina or New York or California, for example, would have more of the abortion on demand, type of thing. And it's important to note that only about 6% agree with these late-term abortion laws. And so I think that it's great that we're returning the power back to the elected officials that enables the people to vote on what actually occurs, not people who are selected and simply confirmed who sit on a lifetime appointment.
According to the Washington Post, the 5-vote majority needed to overturn Roe versus Wade remains intact. And then you have Justice Clarence Thomas saying the court will not be bullied. How important is that? I mean, think about what this country would look like if the Supreme Court could be bullied into changing its mind because of mob rule.
Well, again, this is what's been attempted at appellate courts. We saw this during the 2020 riots. This idea that mob rule is more significant than the rule of law. We are a nation of laws, and we must adhere to those laws. We must respect the justices and what the actual role of our court system is. We must understand that mob rule cannot dominate and intimidate our justices to make the incorrect decisions just because of fear and terror of their own lives.
Another really important topic, Cory, is what's going on in Russia today. Today is Victory Day in Russia, which is the celebration in Russia of Russia defeating Nazi Germany. Putin just made a big speech there. These are live images of Vladimir Putin in Moscow right now. And during this speech, he said that the invasion of Ukraine was provoked by the West. And he also, but the one thing that he didn't do is he didn't really make a major announcement about, any major announcement related to the war, including declaring a victory, full-scale mobilization. He also still continued to call it a special military operation. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that this whole idea of the Victory Day is about building morale because he's losing popularity in the country with this war. I think that it's obvious that, just a few months ago, we couldn't have even fathomed that he would have been at a stalemate that he's in right now. And that's a failure of leadership. That's a failure of people motivated to fight against the Ukrainian government. And so I think that his objective necessarily wasn't to take the full country, but certainly to expand the Eurasian borders, which is something that both China, Russia, and Iran, during their geopolitical alignment, this axis of evils, if you will, is trying to achieve to get to Chairman Xi's One Road, One Belt initiative.
What are intel officers doing right now when it comes to that speech? How are they breaking it down? How are they dissecting it? And what are they looking for?
Well, they're certainly going to look for any type of, key information he's providing, any type of strategic play, anything that he talks about geopolitically. But to be honest, I think right now it's just a morale builder. He's trying to basically rally the Russian people behind this war and, kind of say that, while we're celebrating Victory Day and the defeat of Nazis, that was his actual intent, was that we're defeating Nazism in Ukraine. And so I think that it's all utilized for propaganda more than it is for anything other than that.
Moving down to the border, and I know that you just got back from a trip to our southern border, and listen to these numbers. The CNN poll says that 57% of people think now is not the time to lift Title 42. It's set to expire exactly 2 weeks from today. The Biden administration may be glad that a judge has halted its repeal. So how do you see this playing out?
Well, as you said, Carly, I just returned from the border, and I can tell you right now that it was absolutely appalling what you see. Open border policies, people coming back and forth, crossing into America with no wall, no deterrence, no security, no CBP ICE agents. I was in Roma, Texas, for example, and it was very obvious.
And I believe we have just lost Cory. Anyway, Cory was talking about his trip to the border. This is a problem. Look at this poll. CNN poll. 57% oppose Joe Biden ending Title IV. 42, I should say. Begs the question. The American people see this.
Yes.
Why doesn't Biden?
That's right. And Cory, I believe we have you back, so we'd love for you to finish your thought there.
Yeah, so what I was saying is that I think that the big thing that we need to look at here is that Title 42 needs to be permanent legislation. Our CBP and ICE agents need to have the right to expel those who are violating our sovereignty. We need to secure our borders. We need to return to the Remain in Mexico agreement that President Trump put in place. We need early awareness systems because we're worried about 9,000 miles away, and we need to be worried about our own southern borders to protect our own sovereignty.
Cory Mills, thank you so much for joining us once again. We appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both.